brother James Gregg. Welcome to the podcast, my brother.
Thank you, my brother. Very much, very excited to be here. Thank you.
Well, and for our YouTube live viewers, instead of seeing him in his study with his pipe and his smoking jacket, he's busy at work. We've captured him, so you have that natural background. No, that is not the busiest man in the world's office. That is just brother James, who's taken some time to catch up with us as we get into the Masonic Leadership Academy. This is a new initiative that was launched by our Grand Master, Most Worshipful Stephen Adam Rubin, and in his words, he says it's to complement the instruction found in the 24-inch gauge, the Road to the East, and Masonic Development courses, which for brothers that are listening to this podcast that might be outside of the New York jurisdiction, these are all leadership courses that have been established in our Grand Lodge for some time. Brother James, can you give us kind of an overview of what this new Masonic Leadership Academy is all about?
Sure. Thank you, brother. Terminology, I think it is very important. The Masonic culture classes are kind of a subset of the leadership experience, but aren't in and of themselves a singular endeavor. In discussions with our Most Worshipful Stephen Adam Rubin, his vision, was quite clear. What are we offering? How do we look to enhance our efforts? How do we get back to the basics in all aspects? Officer knowledge of duties, expectations of being an officer, what to expect as a worshipful master. And, these ideas just circled quite passionately. And we were sent off for a few months ago to develop something. Our committee then looked to lock in a select number of ideas and move forward with just rigor and with determination. I've learned that a Mason's worst attribute is just another good idea. And I've been in so many groups where nothing happens because there's another very good idea. It's brought forth, and the planning and execution of that original idea stops, and that other good idea, is brought forth and planned, and the original idea is kind of forgotten about, and then that planning is kind of focused on, but then another good idea happens, and that planning stops, and everyone gets excited about that next good plan. And I say this because, you're 4 months in and all you have are some really good ideas that stopped and nothing's happened. This happens way too often, and I experienced it myself as president of the Masters and Wardens in the 5th. And when that started, I kind of brought everyone in and I said, no, stop. We're going to do 3 ideas, three things. That's it. And anything else we'll write down and do next year. But those 3 things we're going to focus on and actually do. And once we do them, then we can start thinking about what next. And that's kind of, where this, kind of for myself, that moment of cohesion with the committee.
Well, I think it's a simple question that we'll ask as you see a brother going through and progressing through the leadership line in their lodge. And the question that we ask is he ready? And there's many different answers to this. Like, ritual wise, is he ready to know all the parts and be able to serve as the leader is he ready to run a business meeting? Is he ready to handle a trestle board? Is he ready to handle the budget and administrate things at a very high level as a manager of the lodge? It's a big question that is a very simple one to ask. And I think what you're getting to with this program, it helps answer a lot of those. Is he ready to do the trestle board? Is he ready to serve as the true leader of the lodge and not just the person who's been elected to quote unquote run our meetings every couple of weeks?
A lot of what the committee kind of sat back with and just tried to brainstorm was, what did you need? What were you thinking about? What did you want? And, it became very personal to all of us. And we really looked to the 7th Manhattan District, who does a kind of a Sunday monthly informal discussion called, I think it was started by Right Worshipful Ernest Hudson, and blossomed by Worshipful John Santana and Brother David Muriato. And we asked them like about those engagements, about how what is making that work, and we all kind of brainstormed and came up with 12 ideas. Um, and again, I was emphatic that once we have those set, that's our focus. No, those are our action items, not our thinking items, our action items. Because words are so fleeting, and actions that's what matters.
And it's interesting because you kind of approach this with the mindset from academia, where you're like, okay, we're going to start building a curriculum and a course here that other brothers can take. And I want to get to that point too, because this is what makes it so unique, is that instead of logging into some computer program where there's, virtual person giving you instruction and professing to you, the training that takes place here, this is actually education that's coming from other brothers. Can you speak to some of these other men who are standing up to help lead the program?
Well, that's the give and take. That's just a different way, a different lens, and I'm probably going to use that a lot. Is that part of me really, I don't necessarily agree that it's a class per se by structure of what we presume, as you mentioned, teacher-student. In a way, we are all teachers, and in a way, we are all students. It's about the dialogue and about trying to focus on where you've been, what you've gleaned, where I've been, and what I've gleaned, and just sharing. In a way, it's a wonderful moment of sharing that we've constructed. We try to keep it to a frame that allows 45 to an hour, not going past that, not having it being saying everything that's under the earth. We kind of touch on things, having PowerPoints that are meant to inspire, concluding with a panel discussion of sharing. At the end of the day, our hope is that we started by generating lesson plans, and those for all of the committee members, that's our template. That's how our approach is. What do we try? What is the objective? Where do we start the conversation, and where do we end? Where do we want to progress, and what do we want to share in the midst of all that? What are those real questions that, quite honestly, may have a perspective answer, but it's not, capital T, the answer. It's an answer. A lot of these questions are philosophical. That it's all about perspective and about where you came from and what you're offering. That has a lot of shared components between us all. Not everyone's gone through the chairs and is worshipful master. Not everyone has certain components that they're aspiring to. Not everyone has the time or wherewithal with X, Y, and Z. It's sharing each of our roads, because ultimately we're heading to that same shared horizon, but it can be traveled in many different ways.
Yeah, I love that you've taken that approach, because so much of what we do in the craft is experience based, and the fact that you're having all these different voices share, like, I know the trademark is already used, but we basically have our own master's class here. These are people who have gone through this and are speaking from a place of wisdom and, as we say, wise counsel to help out other brothers that are sitting here going, I don't know, what should my trestle board look like? Like, what should I include in a budget? Well, geez, I never thought that I should probably have backup people for certain roles in my officer line, just in case I have men that aren't able to show up and attend that night. These are little things you don't think about until you've spent some time in the East.
Well, and that can be part of the both the wonderful experience of being a worshipful master and the challenging experience of being a worshipful master.
Right.
It's understanding that again, every success are the brothers, and every failure is you have to take on, and it's the experience of the chair or the trestle board. Is there are some districts and some lodges that have a past master association that really looks at your trestle board and works with you and through rigorous Q&A, or there's a template of historic precedents that they shepherd you along. There are some districts, some lodges that don't have that, and their possible only opportunity about talking with the Trussell board, is the valuable master's chair course. Again,
right. Or here,
we don't replace the master's
yeah.
chair in the Road to the East. Almost all of us are past Grand Lodge staff officers or current Grand Lodge staff officers, and we believe in education. We believe in that trajectory,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of us have given those courses, but the Trussell board is like an element within this
Oh yeah,
8-hour experience.
And some of it is literally an archive of, if you're lucky, you can go to your website that your lodge would have, and there's past masters Trussell boards that are there. I've seen some where it's like a file folder that the secretary printed out of all of these PDFs and these different things, these Word documents that were all put together. Even worse when it gets to putting together a budget, where some guys use spreadsheets, some guys use, other programs. And for myself, like, I had very little time managing a lodge budget before. This was a relatively new area for me. So courses that you have on all of these different areas are so beneficial. And it also is going to create a little bit of standardization, because we're going to learn what's working very well in other parts of the state. And I love how you said that the Manhattan district has been such a big part of this. And it's like, okay, they were already doing this, so now we can learn from their workshopping. We got a proof of concept. We've got a great model here. I'm guessing, since this was a relatively new event that was launched, or a new initiative that was launched by our Grand Master, and one of those that he's been working on for some time to get up and going, what's the reception of these programs been like?
As we were chatting in the beginning just about the flyers and publicity, there's a hunger, I think, in New York right now. I think that there is a vicious need, if you will, a sponge just that is so ready. Our first flyers went out, and within 3 hours, we had 75 people signed up. Brothers from all over New York State. Within 3 days, we were sold out. We use Eventbrite and the Zoom that GLNY provides. We had discussions about how to then expand it, but I have to kind of go back to say, the class itself is meant to be more than just the experience of that moment. We really try to construct something that is a tool, not a one and done. The tool that ultimately is going to be housed in Hiram, that site, which is opening in the next month or two, where we'll have a card that is Masonic Culture Class. And in there will be all of our lesson plans for each class. In there will be the PowerPoints that we use, that we invite everyone to come and kind of change it, make it your own. And then also the recordings of the experience that we are initially doing. But they are meant to have a life beyond just this moment. The reception has been incredible. As I mentioned, we've sold out all classes to this point, and we're looking hopefully to expand it now to a webinar that provides 500, and we'll see what that threshold kind of gives us. My hope is that it sells out.
Yeah, I haven't seen those kind of numbers since the pandemic, when we were all forced to be locked down at home, and Masons were looking for anything to go be a part of. I mean, many of us were sitting in on meetings in other jurisdictions. I remember going into one, and it was the Denver Lodge of Denver, Colorado, and I'm like, hey, there's another New York Mason that's in this meeting. It's like everybody was trying to find a way to connect. I think the big question that brothers are asking, and a lot of us are just returning back to the lodge by the time that this podcast airs. Most lodges in New York State should have been open for a couple meetings by now, in late September. If we haven't heard about this, we've been busy this summer with family and friends. Who are these sessions open to, and how do we find out about them?
Well, again, they're open to Masons of New York. Actually, I would just say Masons. We're not talking about anything inherently of the ritual. In other words, we're talking about concepts of leadership and concepts of planning and organization, concepts of what is just right and true to be a Mason, but not any. We're not revealing any secrets. I'll just say that, point blank. Um, so any Mason can attend. We were going through LNE, and that sign up process confirms that you're a Mason in New York. Um, it just does. It asks for your lodge, your number, etc. But anyone, Masonically, can attend. Uh, most flyers are through our lodge page. Most flyers are in the WhatsApp groups, the Facebook pages of districts. The district
Right.
deputies are given access to it. We basically populate it initially with each district deputy and ask them to then give it to every secretary to every lodge, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not hearing about it, I would say email me.
Yeah, actually, if you're not hearing about this, you're doing a very good job of playing hide and seek right now, because I know I've gotten emails from the Grand Lodge that when a new session is released, and then they had the one that had all of the sessions on it, so I could kind of highlight the dates that I wanted to attend. And when you mentioned social media, yeah, it's on the Grand Lodge Instagram page, it's the Grand Lodge Facebook page.
Yeah.
There's brothers that are engaged in talking about this, and I think the big question is when we talk about who, any brother that is ready to answer that call in their heart to like step up and lead their lodge and be a part of it. You don't necessarily have to be the master of the lodge. Of course, that would be very beneficial. But even if you're just looking to get started as a deacon, or maybe even as a steward, or just serve on a committee, like the call to leadership can begin to be answered in this program.
That's a really great way to say it, because we see too often that your senior warden and like, oh my god moment, I need to. If you're waiting to develop the
Mm-hmm.
trestle board until you're a senior warden, you're gonna have it's gonna be problematic. A lot of leadership is getting to know your lodge at the early stages as a steward, as a master of ceremonies, as a marshal. Um, Getting to know your lodge, getting to know the attributes and the talents of those brothers that surround you, those brothers that will be your senior warden, your senior deacon, your master of ceremonies when you're master. Part of it is knowing your team. Part of it is uh, knowing yourself, that you can't do everything. And quite honestly, by the time you've reached the chair, there should be an understanding about delegation and about lifting others. That,
Mm-hmm.
not yourself. I have very strong views about officers and uh, that that we're really here to lift others. That we're really here to uh, not take the credit and try to at every point give it away. Because by lifting others, ultimately it's about the ideas and the principles that you're trying to kind of connect with, and that is what will last. That is what kind of lasts through a lodge. But
Yep.
it's I love that you're saying as a steward or as a master of ceremonies, start the engagement, because leadership is about planning and organization, and about uh, you know about trust.
Yeah.
And
Well, they're also the future. I say that to
yeah,
every new Master Mason that gets raised to that sublime degree. I'm like, you're the future of this fraternity. You're the future of this lodge. Whether you decide to get into the officer line, and I hope you would, but just being an active member in the lodge, you're what we're looking for. You're the lifeblood to keep it going, to pass
right.
that torch. So yeah, I love that something like this is open and exists for brothers. The next session for the Masonic Leadership Academy is going to be coming up on next Monday, September 30th. They'll be talking about the journey to the Oriental Chair. Can you give us a little preview of what this session is going to be about? And will you be one of the brothers that will be speaking on the panel and being a part of the presentation?
Actually, yes. That actually is the. I'll be moderating that, actually. So For that particular one, I'll be front and center. Also, the Mastering Masonic, the Performer's Guide to Ritual and Degrees. I'll also be mentoring and moderating.
That's a natural fit.
Well, that particular one I got excited about because in Scottish Rite, I was asked to kind of look at uh, my point of view on the degrees and how to mount them and envision them and etc. And in a way, it doesn't translate directly, but I took a lot of points out of that to kind of apply now to Blue Lodge. As you're looking at casting, as you're looking at strengths, as you're looking at when to offer certain selections to people to enhance and cultivate and blossom their abilities.
Mm-hmm.
Not everyone can jump from the Q&A to a historical, but there's a middle road there. It's again knowing your team, knowing your brothers, where all that plants in, which is very exciting.
Can I share? Here's a quick story. This is how interesting it is. Is that I know innovation may not move as quickly as we like into our craft. We tend to be a group that's very held into tradition, especially when it comes to our ritual. But I was fortunate enough in a lodge to have a brother who had a theater background.
Mhm.
And when he took over as the ritual director, he said, I am changing the entire way that we're doing these rehearsals and these practices. And as a sports person, he kind of ran it the same way that you'd expect in a football game, where we're not everybody's lining up against each other. You're breaking off into specialty positions.
Yeah.
Then you come back for some areas that you got to rehearse as a group, and then you go. I mean, the only thing that was different between the way he was running our ritual practice and like if you were going to a Broadway show is that if somebody said 5, 6, 7, 8, we all just didn't start dancing. That was really the only difference. Everything else, it was so well organized. I'm like, I really like this idea of like focusing on key roles and key positions.
Right. And there's some having a plan coming in as a ritual director and respecting people's time is quite honestly one of the most important things to do. There are a lot of what we do can undermine itself by spending 3 hours on something that should have taken 45 minutes, on not being organized and planned with how to execute and go in, and again respecting people's time. If that can be successful, it's people will be eager to show. They know that I'm coming in at 7. I know I have something at 7:45. I'm out, and you're getting what you need as a ritual director done. And again, having a plan is 90% of it. You had mentioned the Oriental chair. That again will be moderated by myself, and we'll be looking how to lock in on that one about officer expectations, about how each chair contributes to the next. Again, I have strong ideas about officers and officer expectations, but again, we're offering a different lens to see these ideas through. And that's part of what the Masonic culture class is a different lens that we're looking through. I think there's a relation, an understanding that the brothers who come to the class can actively engage in and know, be on page for everything that we're saying. It's just we're not talking and reading from a descriptive published book. We're really leaning into our experiences, our engagements, our successes, our failures, the things that maybe we don't want to talk about. We're going to talk about. It's I believe in transparency, and it's everything sometimes isn't seen through a rosy lens. That we have to talk about the challenges to be successful. And the team that we've created each has a strength, and some of the questions that are filtered in from the brothers in the day that the class happens, um, sometimes lead us down a road that is exciting, engaging, and it's like, yes, we wish we had 3 more hours to talk. But
Oh
again,
yeah,
keeping
yeah.
the frame, to 45 minutes to an hour, I think is so vitally important. Always leave them wanting more, if you will.
And one of the things is that having been through the East, and what I found is that it was a lot like the first time when I was getting married, and then before I had my first child, where I found other men that were friends of mine coming up to me and just giving me this free, unsolicited advice. And while some of it seemed very serious at the time, and I was in my early 20s when I first got married. I was like 25 when my daughter was born, so I was a young dad, and I had a lot to learn. And I stopped looking. I would use the word important. And I think that that's the same thing when it comes to giving advice to men who are looking to make that turn into our East in our lodges, is that it's important for them to be prepared. It's important for them to have this knowledge, because yes, there's going to be stuff that comes up. I guarantee with, just the two of us, we've probably experienced a few things that were slightly or drastically different during our time in the East. But we survived. And the good thing is we can give, we can give that information to the next guy.
Is that, there's the plan, and I fight myself on this a lot because, especially in theater, there's a plan. And part of what, technical directors love is that there's a plan, stick to it. As a director, I also know that what works on stage, or what works, you have to have the courage to cut something. If it's not working, you need to cut it, or you need to attack the staging. In other words, that courageous moment of being willing to, yes, all my budget went into this thing, but this thing just isn't working, and without it, we actually fly. And to know that that's okay. Kind of going back to like a master, his lodge, etc. You and I both experience as challenges. There's the plan, but not having a fear to pivot, knowing that, quite honestly, the brothers are behind you. And as the year happens, you're looking for the best road for your lodge, for your brothers, and they're behind you, and that's part of what we try to, express, is that the brothers are totally behind any worshipful master in that chair. It's just a concept that is quite beautiful. And we can't forget that. And part of that courage, is to say, okay, I had a plan, it's not working, I'm going to pivot, and trust your brothers.
Those are two great qualities, and I feel like we're on the same brainwave here. I was going to ask you, aside from trust and being able to pivot and being able to kind of see where the winds of change and time are coming, what other quality do you think makes a successful leader, and how are you taking that and instilling it into what the work is being done here in the Academy to help brothers that need that seed to be planted, to help them cultivate those qualities?
Right. No, thank you for that. That is $1 million question. I've always come from planning an organization is the key to everything. You wanting a position or feeling entitled to a position doesn't grant you that position, in my mind. Having a friend, that gives you a position because he's a friend, it's a dark area of the Masonic experience. Everyone, leadership is work. I can't say it any other way. It's about work, about giving the time to plan and organize what is valuable.
My other question kind of revolves around the idea of leadership, and it's a topic that's come up a lot on our podcast episodes this year, and it's a quality, I guess, or one of the other added benefits of being a Freemason that brothers sometimes don't think about. Like, oh, I get to be a better leader. They think community service, personal development, connecting with others. Those are all great things, and that happens. But an upside is that if you have members who regularly attend your meetings and are engaged and active, guess what? The opportunity for others to excel in other positions in the lodge has now increased.
Yeah.
The downside, though, unfortunately, is a lot of brothers just don't receive the proper training or the direction or maybe even the time to develop these skills. They get stuffed into a position too early. There's nobody in the lodge that's really saying like, hey, let's slow things down and let's actually talk about this, or let me teach and have some shareable moments here. So Brother James, in your opinion, what makes Masonic leadership unique? And really, why should more brothers start to care about it?
That's an interesting question. Leadership, I mean, is an interesting concept. Um, Gosh, I wonder sometimes if leadership, sometimes can be taught, and I truly believe that there are concepts of leadership that can, that you know, but I always wonder about what is the most advantageous method. Um, I've taught a few leadership courses on the side just to kind of rip through that question. Um, and, and at times I don't know, you know. What I do know is there's no direct problem that can be definitively answered um, in a if this, then this methodology. The world isn't constructed like that. Engagement takes information from so many sources. It offers weight to impactful data. It negates some, it highlights others. It reads body language. It constructs responses, both physical action as well as like verbal. Um, Leadership is vision. Leadership is how you deal with people. Leadership is how you lift people, how you protect people, how you listen. Leadership is about having courage, as I mentioned before. Um, I think the Leadership Academy presents ideas that offers roads to leadership moments, how to take inventory of the talents of those around you, how to look at yourself, an insight and how to know yourself. It offers methods of dealing with personalities, lessons in collaboration, trust, and how to impact both through praise and how to deal with criticism. I feel the Masonic culture class offers insight of what to consider when planning and gives insight, to the results of choices one makes. It's again, I think through this kind of moment of constructing these 12 ideas, um, it impresses upon me that there is no one way. That there are many different roads that people have come by to become a Masonic leader. Um, a lot of the advantages of being a Masonic leader is, quite honestly, the past masters. You have this collective body of people who have been in your lodge, who are directly interested in the success and your success, and want nothing but success for you. I always say that, especially when it comes to ritual, it is such a beautiful moment, and being in a lodge doing ritual, there is no better audience that you're offering it to. Everyone wants you to succeed. Everyone is there when you trip up. It's they just want to help, and it's no one's there to knock you down. And that's one of the great things about Masonry, is that lodge experience can be so incredible.
Yeah.
And that transcends and leads right directly to the master's chair. One, in how you as a master, as someone sitting in the chair, responds to all the brothers, hopefully aligned in that same way about that positivity, that inspiring moment to always, cultivate as opposed to discard. Remembering always, like, why did we become a Mason, and how were we treated when we were coming through, and how did we want to be treated across the board, and always remembering that. For
Hmm.
me, those are the important moments.
Yeah, it's the impact moments, because it's
Yeah.
what you can change, or what you can look as the inspiration to continue doing to help others, make that difference that they're looking to do as well. And as you mentioned, 12 courses. So they've got the whole year. They're all the way through next summer planned out, which is fantastic. And if, like we said, if you haven't been getting the emails from the Grand Lodge, if you have not been on social media this summer, well, then I don't know how to tell you. It's really easy to become a part of this and actually attend these while they're happening now, being live. It's a great way to support this initiative from the Grand Lodge, and it's a great way to also be respectful to Brother James and all the other worshipfuls, right worshipfuls, and brothers that just step forward to become a part of this committee to bring all of this together. Kind of sets me up for a
If I
big
may,
thing. I know.
I did want to mention, there was a way in the conception of the development of the culture class, that we tried to focus on the worshipful master and a few experiences. We try to look at then the officers and what were some moments of connection there. Then we started looking at the brothers, um, and Right Worshipful Tim Rios brought an incredible um, idea of a discussion about balancing family, career, and masonry, um, and just the value of that. In a way, that's the course that I think we all kind of sat back and said, "Man, if I if I would have had that, years ago,
Mhm.
it's how do you do it?" But then we've got right worshipful Anthony Kofiozzi Tutu and right worshipful Brian Finger talking about how to memorize and the ritual. We've got right worshipful Oren Kotowski talking about uh, the memorable Masonic events and what that is. And we have everyone, kind of going back and forth as either panelists or in support of. What we've now tried to do is draw in guys from upstate, from the east, the west, Long Island, and Manhattan as panelists to offer again. So we broaden our lens, we broaden our perspective, and try to engage as much as we can. Thank you.
Love that. Love that. So, we're really big on aprons and titles and awards in our fraternity. So this is not a required program. I'm just curious. I'm sure someone has asked already. Is there some sort of certificate or credential that would be offered to brothers who complete all 12 of the courses, outside of the warm feeling in your heart that you've enriched yourself and become a better, stronger leader of your lodge?
I was hoping to end on a positive note. um,
It's okay to say no. I think it would be great if there wasn't something that
there's not,
brothers could
and
just
I
say,
feel
yeah.
strongly about that. I feel strongly that we're too focused on aprons and too focused on pins and too focused on certificates. Sometimes it's about the value that you are constructing those actuals inside yourself to create something better, and that is not a physical thing. That is not something that is representative that one can, I dare say, show off. It's that that this 45 minutes made you a better person. It's
Hmm.
that doing these certain things, taking the different courses, uh, that has contributed to your engagement to do that in a better way. Um, I'd love I'd love a world in which we just move away from the pins and certificates. I really truly believe that uh, it's about the enrichment of yourself. Um, our hope is that we're offering a toolbox, and that toolbox is going to make you a better Mason in every situation. And that toolbox is what's valuable. Um, but it's nothing that anyone can see, but through your actions and through your responses. Kind of everything that we hope a Mason is.
Yeah.
So that's where I stand.
Yeah, well, I agree with you. I think education and confidence, those are two powerful things that if you can walk away with that, I would rather have that than a piece of paper. So I will get you out of here on a fun question, right, Worshipful? Okay. As you and I both share that important title, and we get to do the meaningful work for our Grand Lodge and supporting our Grand Master, I have a final leadership question for you, because I have heard so many different answers to this question, and I'd really like to add your response to my list. So complete this sentence. The first rule of leadership is blank.
Oh.
The first rule of leadership is blank.
Honestly, I would say planning an organization. Secondly, I would say trust. Thirdly, I'd say assembling a flexible and talented team. But planning an organization, I think, is key, because as much as one might be challenged by the administrative is so important. Communication is so important. Those ideas are interwoven with success. It's, if anything is properly planned and organized, then it's, the steps are just so much easier, and people want to walk that road with you because they trust, and they trust you. It's delivering at every point about someone's trust is hard, or not. It's how you perceive it. It's the value and respect, respecting the value as well as respecting others, is always a huge moment. But I'll stick with planning an organization.
All right. Well, because I'll see if you can finish this quote, because if you're not planning to succeed, then you're planning to.
Yeah. Failure is, failure is one of those things that it's only if you give up do you fail. There are successes in everything we do. Again, it goes back to the lens that we view it on, and it goes back to how we see ourselves and what that trajectory is. And failure may not be the attainment of what your ideal end goal was, but are you better than which you started? Have you progressed? Right. And how you look at where you've progressed or where you haven't gotten, it's either looking at the world in a very positive way or a very negative way. It's and when you express that, do you try to debrief about your successes, or do you try to express a debrief about what wasn't attained? And I think there's a balance there, because but knowing yourself, knowing not an optimistic goal, but I truly believe that myself. You should put the bar high, because if it's too easy, your muscles kind of atrophy. It's you want the challenge. You need. Yeah. For myself, I need the challenge. I say this a lot at work. It's just dealing with designers and directors and strong personalities. It's trusting yourself and your position, to respond to very strong personalities. But it's about ultimately trusting yourself as well.
Masonic Leadership Academy. Stay tuned to your inbox, New York Masons. You can get updates on when the next culture class is happening near you. You can also see it on social media. And then you can be a part of this and definitely catch it when it's ready to be rolled out in its official playback course level, which I'm looking forward to that a little bit later on this year. Until then, Right Worshipful Brother James Gregg, thank you so much for making some time and coming on the Craftsman Online podcast again.
Brother Michael, thank you so much for having me. This has been a pleasure. I hope next time we can bring the team, and I'm sure that they will have so much better things to say. But thank you.